That's right, ladies and gentlemen. In this devlog, we will be taking this crap combat design and pushing it to its maximum potential. Kinda. Before we do any of that, let's explore a quick recap on what we have done prior to these events. If you remember from the last video, we had designed some sexy buildings, added in resource collection, and created a few new biomes to discover throughout the game's expansive island. This was supposed to be what I talk about in today's devlog for the most part, but one afternoon of getting hopped up on some pre-workout, and, well, I ran through all of it in about 90 seconds. Because of my stupidity, the Monster Tower team then had to scramble a little bit to get some extra content to show you guys, so let's get into the new updates. Yo, I bought this magic whiteboard to keep me on task. It's pretty cool. Literally all I have to do is just think of what I want to work on, yell at the mic, and just kind of shows up. Oh shoot, my bad, wrong list. Okay, let's try that again. Yes, day and night cycles. If you want to trick society into thinking that your game is real, just throw one of these in. There's just something magical about turning from day to night in video games. Gives a sense of realism, no? We needed to add some shaders into our game to take it to the next level, so after a couple of hours of thinking about it, I decided that it wasn't my cup of tea, so I made a few little adjustments to the process. A couple of days later, we had something very interesting. Here is the before, and here is after. I think it's time to adjust a few little values to make the game a little bit more colorful. Solid. Every cool game needs an epileptic warning at some point, don't you think? The moment you have all been waiting for is here. Time to get this crap out of my game. The first thing to do was to redesign the background. I decided on going for more of an isometric head-on view for the battle scene, and then needed to create some platforms for the monsters to sit on. Really, the only thing left to do now is code it all in GameMaker and put in some UI elements. Here is the end result. This is not the final look, as I am still continuing to grow as a pixel artist, and we want to tone down the background colors and create a cooler, more closed-in atmosphere for the battle scene, but this is what we will be using for the next couple months. We also added in a few cool actual mechanics to the game, like the tiles are actually working with tile conditions and status conditions work properly. Also, most moves will actually have scriptable events now, so those are in the game as well, for moves that don't just deal damage and maybe apply a status condition. We had some issues trying to figure out how we wanted to show the tile conditions, so we ended up splitting the adjacent tiles in half and also displaying it on the UI in case monsters are too big and end up blocking it in the foreground. We will still be expanding this idea further by including some slow panning, zooming, and screen shake when the monsters are preparing their attacks. But I mean, yeah, it's starting to actually come together and you can kind of play the game. Oh yeah, and now we actually have visuals on the battlefield to display the attack and who is getting hit. We might end up redesigning this in the future, but I mean, that's just how games develop. Expect the action phase to slow down slightly to include the monsters actual moving to the center instead of just appearing, and some visual improvements to make the game easier to understand. But the final change that made this game go from confusing to, well, playable is getting rid of phases. If you guys remember how the old system worked, it would go as follows. You would set up your attack phase with moving your monsters, attacking, resting, or using items, and then you would have a defensive phase to predict what the enemy was going to do and counter it. Unfortunately, in playtesting this against real people in the 2-player versus mode, it was just way too confusing having someone play out their turn and then have the opposing team just mess everything up with a monster swap or a counterattack item. We just decided that the best overall decision was to remove the attack and defense phase altogether, which works much better for the following reasons. 1. You can no longer screen peek your opponent's turn to counter their strategy because only one turn plays out at a time. 2, the combat is now much easier to follow, being just alternating turns. And 3, the entire battle takes substantially less time to actually play out by removing this 2-part phase. Less decisions means a quicker planning phase, but also makes you think farther in advance as to how you want your team positioned for the opposing player's turn. If you liked the attack and defense phase idea, sorry, but overall this method is 10 times better and easier to get into for higher strategizing, but also for beginners that don't understand what is going on. Really hope you guys like the new battle system and all of the new features we have been adding recently. We'll be showing off some very cool, never before seen content in the next devlog on January 15th, but before you leave, I just want to say thank you for watching our progress unfold over these past couple months, and make sure to stick around because I will be dropping a lot more videos at a much higher quality than I ever have previously. I've been streaming the game's development pretty much every single Saturday, so come out to those when you can, and also follow me on Twitter because I post some behind the scenes stuff on there that are seen way before the YouTube videos. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will leave you with a couple fan art monsters that were drawn this week. Thank you guys.